Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I know you guys are missing Gia. I know she normally starts off. You guys normally see her face here, but now you got my ugly mug, and well, you got to deal with it. But today, a lot of men are not going to the red pill because life is good. They're going there because something hurt them. Maybe they got lied to. Maybe they got cheated on. Maybe they got divorced. Maybe they gave their heart to someone and it got crushed, and now they want answers. And when a man is in pain, he wants something that makes sense fast, right? He wants something that explains what happened. He wants to know why he got played. He wants to know why he got rejected. He wants to know why women he trusted turned on him. And that why this matters, because the red pill speaks to men when they are hurt and they tell them, you're not crazy. There is a reason this happened. There's a lot of men go through this, and that makes them feel powerful. And the real question is, does this help men get stronger? Does it help men heal? Does it help men build a better life? Or does it just make them angry, bitter, and sick? Today, I'm going to be talking with Ed Latimore. He has said that while he understands why men go to the red pill, he also believes it becomes destructive. So today we're going to talk about what men should learn, what they should reject, and what men really need to know about life moving forward. So if you're ready, I'm ready. I think we should get into it. I would normally say, Gia, you ready? And she'll probably tell me, hurry up and let's go. So let's go. Church, not fame, they're flipping the script, rewriting the game. Welcome, Ed.
Hey, welcome, man. I meant to ask you, man, that song, that track that plays is hot, man. I gotta you gotta give me that, or just tell me what the name of it so I can look it up.
I'll email it to you. I haven't released it yet. It's not it's not on Spotify or anything yet, but yeah, I'll email it to you.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, that's a banger, man. I was like, the lyrics are good, the music,
yeah, so man, I played the bass, so I actually laid the bass line down myself, and yeah, so it was a fun project. But enough about me. Let's get into you, sir. You are 14-1-1. That's your record.
That's my boxing record, yeah.
But I think you have fought in more fights in life than your professional record, wouldn't you say?
That's probably pretty accurate. My life has been it's been fun fights. I mean, okay, they've been fights, not fun, but they've been fights.
What would you say that shaped you the most coming up? Before we get into the red pill stuff, but like what made Ed? Like, what made that have that drive, that fighting drive, like that relentless fight?
Honestly, it starts with insecurity. It starts there because, when you grow up, so just for background for all the people who don't, know me or know my story, I was raised in public housing by a single mom and dealt with a lot of stuff that comes with that, which is this kind of lagging, nagging sense of rejection and always needing to get approval. And then there's the, my mom was fairly abusive, and you don't realize how much that messes you up until you start really looking at how you respond to things and you want to fix your life, and dealing with just the violence in the neighborhood too. So there's all this stuff. It all comes together to make me feel like no one enjoys me for just me. No one just likes me. No one loves me. So what did I try to do? Well, people from that background, they try to do one of two things. They either numb that feeling, or they try to chase it with something constructive or destructive. And I think I did a combination of all three at varying degrees to different points. But I'm fortunate that by far the most of the seeking of approval came through performance in the ring, or going back to school or even, you know, things that part of what drives me in my writing is to demonstrate that I'm a worthy writer,
Mhm.
and things of that nature. And this runs so much deeper than I thought it did. I didn't realize how mad about. I mean, I knew I'd always had the issue, but on my son's baby shower, I had all these people show up, and I'm just sitting up there. I'm like, I almost cried, man. 'Cause I'm like, wow, all these people love, like they're my friends. They love me,
Mhm.
and they took time out of their day because to give gifts to somebody that doesn't even exist yet because he's my kid.
Mhm.
And that really messed me up for a while. I sat and thought about it for a long time, like what is wrong with me? I mean, but I knew it was wrong with me. But that's what drives me. That's I
Mhm.
think that and you I think you find that when you look at a lot of people who have anything that closely resembles high performance. It's a whole book about this called The Triple Package.
Yeah.
Uh that talks about, you know, the three traits that come together in people who are high performers, are, but they focus on the cultural aspect, and it's like this insecurity, this or rather inferiority complex, superiority complex, and then you combine that with conscientiousness, and you end up with somebody who ends up with some decent measurable metrics in life, but ultimately you still have to deal with the other stuff, the underlying stuff.
Yeah, like for me, I think I grew up feeling like I wasn't like worthy enough. I wasn't good enough, right? I wasn't the brightest kid in school. I was like last to class, first to leave, right? Like the only way they actually got me to stay in school my senior year was they did this thing called in school suspension, and I
I,
had a
I remember those.
I literally had a cop come pick me up from my house and take me to school because that's the only way they could guarantee that I was going to show up. And the cop actually happened to be my football coach. So, you know, he would walk me to in school suspension. I'll be locked in isolation all day. And that's how I graduated, though.
I,
And
you know, I never realized that was the whole purpose. But yeah, I had a few, not in high school. Well, you know, but my high school, my life, um, we'll say post middle school and pre middle school or pre ninth grade, post ninth grade, very different lives. But yeah,
yeah.
that's
So, and I was always written off. So, like, oh, like they thought I was going to graduate. I graduated. Um, they thought I was gonna do good in the military. I ended up doing great. And then I got injured, and then they thought I couldn't go back to school. I went to school, got my degree in, religion and theology. And so everything, everything that I set out to do, I have accomplished. When I wanted to get into competing, I was 285 pounds. I dropped all the way down to 205, 4% body fat, like
wow.
so I thrive off of like people putting a glass ceiling on telling me people trying to tell me what I can't do. Like I said, the most dangerous thing that people could say is that I won't become president because I will end up becoming president. Like my goal was like fine. Now my goal is to prove you wrong. And it's because of like that not feeling good enough or that like, the rejection that drove me. Um and I agree with you. I think it could be, good and helpful at times. Um and also really detrimental. And it's kind of something similar to what you're saying. You said that, you know, um, your son's baby shower, and you're like all these people showing up with gifts, and you're like, wow, like they're giving gifts to somebody that's not even here yet. I had a similar moment, and it kind of really made me want to like make this part of my legacy was when we were raising money for Thor, for his brain tumor cancer with surgery. You know, I started the fundraiser. Pearl helped. A lot of people helped, and we raised over $25,000 within less than a week. And these are from people that that don't know him personally, like in person, but know of him. And I was like, that's the type of legacy I want to leave. I want to leave an impact on people like that to where, not saying that people want to give money to him, but the fact that all these people, he has touched so many people that within less than a week, all the people just came out of the woodworks to make sure that this effort was, met. And I was like, that's the mark that I want to leave, and I find that really inspirational. Um, you said something that stood out to me before though. You said that while you think we're going to get into the red pill part now. So you said that while you think that the red pill is destructive, you understand why men end up there. Let's start there. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so like once you understand the problem, then you can understand why certain solutions are offered, whether those solutions are optimal or not, or solutions slash explanations. We'll put both of those in the same bucket. You can understand why those solutions and explanations are offered and sound appealing because they make the world make sense. You know, for example, one of the most formative experiences I had growing up, I happen to have, I don't know how this worked out. I happen to have like 3 friends whose dads were bus drivers. White girls at that. It's key. And their dads, they told me like he's racist as hell, you know? And then, you know, when I'm younger, I'm just like, oh, that's funny. Ha ha. And then as you ride the city bus, look, if I had to ride the bus through the projects and deal with that, I would 100% understand why someone would think that way. That doesn't mean I endorse it. That doesn't mean I think it's true. I don't even think it's or useful, but I would understand why they think that way. But at the same time, is telling them to go join the Klan or the Knights of Columbus, like not Columbus, but the Knights or the Aryan Brotherhood. Is that a solution? No, but I know how they got there. That's kind of what I mean. And so when I look at like the way guys are treated compared to girls in certain areas and with certain situations, these are the facts, not what is cherry picked or exaggerated for the effect of social media. I can understand how one might reach a conclusion that perhaps it is an unbalanced and unfair system, and maybe it is in some ways. I mean, there's certainly other ways where it's more balanced and, or rather, more tilted in our favor, more tilted in theirs. But that's nuance. But if you spend all your time online, and our brains were going to do this because nuance and thought, and you know, I always say thinking is hard, and I'm kind of being tongue in cheek for clicks and views, but it's true. That's why we have shortcuts and we fall for cognitive biases because our brain likes to conserve energy. So if you already have an inkling of something, you're going to search for confirmation of that because searching for antagonistic information, that's going to require you to think, and that takes a lot of energy. So if somebody can package that up and give you a nice, neat explanation for what's happening, and it appeases your anger, or at least coincides with it, cosigns why you're angry, says you have a right to be mad, and you have a right to feel and think this way, and then offers a solution from that, even if you are a little squeamish about said solution, eventually you start thinking, this makes perfect sense, and then you see the whole world through that lens. So I understand how a guy, especially one who's coming off a tough breakup or his girl cheated on him or something, I 100% get it. But at the same time, I mean, what is that Bible quote? I think it's Matthew 16:26, right? What value is it to a man to gain the
profit the whole world but lose his soul?
So yeah, what do you gain? Is it worth it? It's not going to be worth it. You don't think it's going to be worth it, or rather, you think it'll be worth it. You think you're gaining the ability to screen and deal with women and be more attractive and have this never happen again. Except it ain't. You're not. I mean, this is part of life, man. Bad stuff happens. But to make yourself worse because of it, the only guarantee that comes with that is that more bad things will happen. That's it.
Yeah.
and you won't realize it until it's too late. You know, there's a lot of guys. One of the reasons why I started rallying against this stuff whenever I see the nonsense. I don't go looking for fights, not yet at least. But is that, you know, I'm 41. I'm 41.
You and I are the same age.
So we're the same age, and I've got my relationship, I got my family, I'm growing. Not that I would go be, you know, all of a sudden go MGTOW, but if I did, you know, at the very least, I'm making an informed decision, so to speak. Yeah. But if you get a guy in his early 20s being fed this stuff, and he forms his entire way of dealing with the opposite sex, assuming he's heterosexual, you're dealing with the opposite sex. And then he finds out, as many of them do, and you can look and you can see these forums all over Reddit and the internet, and they find out this doesn't really work, and I'm miserable. It's too late a lot of times. So what do you get? It's like you said, you compared it to feminism, and by the time many of the women wake up and realize that a lot of what feminism is promised, the modern and I always have to say give nuance with this, if for no other reason than the internet is full of simple people. When I say feminism, I'm not talking about, repealing the 19th, or rather, I'm not criticizing that, or the 1974, Equal Credit and Pay Act. No, those things were necessary because we should all be treated, if we're going to be given equal responsibilities and treatment under the law, we should all have equal opportunities. I'm talking about the second and the third wave of this stuff that really was, manufactured, as I understand it, but that's a different discussion. But the ultimate end goal message of it is, put off commitment with guys and don't do it and that. You got all the time in the world, that kind of thing, and it ends up in the same situation where you end up with people who are like in their 40s going, oh, by the way, I think I do want a family. Oh no, it's gonna be a lot harder.
Yeah, I think like what this space gets right is the descriptions of the problems that men are dealing with.
Absolutely.
I would say that's as far as I could go with them. Is like they hit the nail on the head when it talks about the problems that men are facing.
And here, we got to be careful though, and this is important. There's this great book I read called The Cure for Hate. We had talked about before the show about how the initial article that I had written about the RP space, I was going to compare it to cults and gangs, and I decided to stay focused on gangs. But one kind of middle ground in terms of things I have experience with, or at least, indirect watching. I was never in a gang, but many family members were and people I grew up with. And on the other end, the cult that I have zero experience with, white supremacist gangs, or any type of racial ideology gang. And there's this great book called The Cure for Hate, written by Tony McAleer, a former neo-Nazi who got out of that life and really devoted his time to help. Now he devotes all his time to help people leave gangs and extreme movements. But he talks about how you take a extreme fringe position and you move it closer to the mainstream. And so you start with something that like only 1% of the population would agree with, if that, right? Repeal the 19th Amendment. You take that and you dress it up in fancy language, you put a suit on it, so to speak, and you back it up with other things that sound that sound good or are factual. Kind of like, look at if you break down how women versus men voted and see the leaders we get and how that turns out.
And then you could even dress it up to the point where you'd be like, well, it's not even, if you repeal the 19th, you're not just stopping women from voting, you're stopping men from voting too. So we don't want stupid men to vote, do we? So we're not. So does it sound so sexist, right?
And so now all of a sudden, what you've taken is a position that was on the 1% and the extreme, and you've made it a little more palatable. You made it just palatable enough to where, while it is not a majority opinion, it is now no longer outlandish to speak of. And that is, I wish I had a solution for it, because I'm the first person to say that we have the First Amendment for a reason. We should be able to say and express ourselves however we want to, and we should let the people decide what are good ideas. But what history has shown, and my interactions with people have shown, is that we are unbelievably bad at this, and we're very bad at this, and we fall for the simplest. Every cognitive bias you can think of, from the halo effect to attribution bias the confirmation bias. We fall for it all, and all of a sudden you get people who really do think that they should sleep with 50 women before they try and get committed. Mm-hmm. Because there's no other way they can do that. And there's so many things wrong with that idea.
Yeah.
But all you got to do is stop and think. I'll give you a perfect example of this that I remember clearly is, one of the stats that the guys love to throw around is that women initiate something like 70% of the divorces. And I'm just like, why does that bug the hell out of me? Well, it bugs me because we don't record that information, not at a national level, and not many states do. But even if they did, even if we knew exactly who filed for divorce, who files for divorce is not the same as the person who initiates the cause of the divorce, right? That's just who went and served and said, "Hey, I want a divorce."
You know, it's funny. I talked to James Sexton, the divorce attorney, James Sexton. Yeah. He's a friend of mine, and I brought him on, and we actually brought that stat up, and I was like, because he mentioned this before. He goes, "Yes, the divorces that women initiate 70% of the divorce, but that's not true. It's not necessarily mean that they want the divorce. It's that half the time their husband has left them, so." Yeah. They are forced to, they're a stay-at-home mom or whatever, or they don't make enough money to pay for the bills. Dude left all the bills and under their name and everything. And in order for them to get any assistance, there has to be a legal proceeding that says, hey, we are now going to be doing this because of this, problem here. And he said half the time, the wives are not the ones that want to do it, but the lawyers are like, hey, I can't help you get the resources you need until we have legal documents saying that we're going through this proceeding. We're trying to, and that's what nobody factors that in.
Right. So look, I didn't even know about that. All I knew was just follow. I call it the smell test. Now, granted, not to toot my own horn, but I have really refined my sniffer, and so like that stat didn't pass the smell test to me. It just didn't make sense, because if there's one thing I know, or I know kind of well-ish, is like you need to dig into how the data was collected. And if you can't answer that, you can't say for sure that it's collecting what you're trying to collect or measuring what you're trying to measure.
Yeah.
So if we only measure who files, the status presented is a way to say women cause most divorces.
Yeah.
That's how that's presented, but that's not what that stat is measuring, is my point. And even without talking to a divorce lawyer, but that's the kind of energy you have to put into thinking. And when I say that people are really bad at this, that is what they don't want to do. That takes a lot of energy.
It's almost like what they do with like a lot of the other stats too. Like what they tend to do is they tend to take a tendency, right, and make it a rule.
Yes.
Like they'll say like all women are hypergamous. They're all gonna like basically say like all women are gonna want to only get with somebody better than them. They won't get anybody at their level, and they will leave you for the next best thing. She's not yours. It's just your turn, And so guys are like, why even consider committing? But that's not what the data shows. Like,
not at all. I have this conversation. I feel like at least once every week, and I'm like, look, man, I just need you to touch grass. Because, okay, so here's what sparked this off, the most recent iteration of this conversation. Someone left a comment on my latest video was like, why you should train. Train in boxing and all that. Someone left a comment that like, oh, man, I think you should train, but your advice is a joke for that fighters are attracted to women if they're under 6 feet tall.
I saw that. That was
and I was sitting here and I'm just like, what are you looking at? What world do you live in where a fighter who is 5'8", 5'7", like the height of Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford and pretty much everyone who's not a cruiser or higher, where these guys get left? And I'm like, you got to touch grass. Like, that's just not how it works. Like, when guys go, women are all chasing the top 20% of guys. I'm like, yes, everyone wants the best version they can get, but
Exactly.
expectation is not what actually happens. If you go out and touch grass instead of just absorbing your opinions from the internet, and look, touching grass, that's not nearly as cognitively demanding as, analyzing stats. So just go out and look around the world and you'll see, oh, people are pairing up all the time. Now, all the time. The only people who aren't, I can't even say that for sure, but I was going to say the only people who aren't pairing up are like the real bottom of the barrel. But I've seen homeless people being fucking,
Seriously. I've seen homeless people get at it, like, well, what's funny? Like, even like the 80-20 rule that they take, that's from the OK Cupid study, right? And you know how bad they're like, women only want the top 20% of men, but you know what they are leaving out? Guys too, or only going after the top 1/3 of women. So it was like, guys want. So what's the difference? Like, there's no difference in that.
It's I can't remember the name of this bias, but if you hear something repeated enough, familiarity, that's what it's called. The illusory truth, specifically. I just had a post about this on LinkedIn. The illusory truth bias. If you hear something repeated enough times, you start thinking it's true.
Yep.
Even if you know it's false. And they've shown this with everything from like just headlines to actual in-person experiments where you can convince somebody that ain't green, that's blue. You'd be looking at it like, no, everybody comes and keeps telling you that's, referencing this way. You're like, holy shit, maybe there's something wrong with me. Like, maybe I'm colorblind. Like, maybe it is blue.
Like, yeah, you start questioning. It's almost like they gaslight you to this degree.
Yeah.
Because like one of the other things, and this is what I thought was so bad about like they take real data, they strip it down, right? And they get rid of all the nuance and everything. And then they repackage it and sell it like as if it's an absolute.
Yeah. Which is unbelievably dangerous. Like that is in the purest sense of the word. That's propaganda.
That's deception.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they are intentionally deceiving men by not giving them the nuance and all the other contributing factors. Like what we're talking about hypergamy pretty much basically. So they think that it's like the way that, and this is my loose definition of what some of the guys frame it as, is that women only marry up and it becomes broader when it comes like, in their they said they only want attractiveness, status, dominance. That's it. Like there's no other nuance for it. But really, like what the data actually shows is that, yes, women do like to marry at their level or up, but at the same time, you're not factoring education, income. You're not factoring in qualities like their character, loyalty, trust. These are all really big, strong contributing factors in pair bonding and relationship that are not like they're just removing because they only wanted to make it seem it's all about materialism. It's all about status. It's all about presentation. And it's like, so they're saying, don't worry about being a good man. Worry about looking like you're a badass and like you have it all.
Which is very, very adolescent.
Yeah.
Like it. So you got to remember, we talk about how, no one finds this space in a good position in their life. That's 100% true. But it's almost as if the place where you find it until you get rid of it, your growth socially halts. It's impossible to grow because that would actually mean like taking inventory of where you went wrong. That's a big one. And that's not something that even angry people are capable of doing. But the idea is you don't stay angry for very long. You move past that, as they call it, the anger phase. But if you stay stuck in that position, or you end up in a position where you are incentivized to stay in that position, then there's no growth that can happen. And so you can't ever leave behind. And here's the thing. It's like, you know why activists annoy me? In particular, as a black guy, whenever I see especially when especially when I see a white liberal decide to make come after a black cause or attach something to a black cause.
Yeah.
One of the things that I immediately think of is, well, what happens if we actually solve this problem? What are you going to do now? And once you realize that, you follow the incentives, a lot of things make sense. Where I'm going with this is, let's pretend they actually offered a solution. There was an actual red pill you took, you popped it, you sold it. Let's say you sell it for $9.99. You popped it, and boom, you never get hurt by a woman again. You always be selected. You always be the top. Then what?
They're out of a job.
Out of it, completely out of it. Much better to sow something called ontological insecurity within your audience. Convince them they're always under attack. Convince them that the women are the enemy, and society does not understand, and all that. And by the way, not only is that the enemy, they are your problem. How you behave, you're too blue pill, you're too beta. Make sure you come buy my book. Make sure you watch my videos. Make sure you buy my course, because I'm the one that's going to show you.
I'm your Moses, and I'm going to lead you to the promised land.
Yeah, and look, and this goes deeper than that, man. Look, when I wrote that, the article that's coming out, I have no idea how it'll do, but it goes deeper than that. So. The manosphere, if we look at that like the gangs, right?
Yeah.
There's different sets, you know how in the street gang culture, you got your Bloods, your Crips, Trey H, your Norteños, Treños, all the Rolling Sixes, all that. You got your same sets. You got your MGTOWs, your PUAs, your MRAs, your black pillars, your red pillars, the whole deal. And look, most of the time, they all share kind of the same general idea. But every now and then you get your beefs. And then that was another thing that really started to bug me in this space. I see these guys, claiming to be this masculine thing, and then they're busy arguing with one another over who's got the better way to approach these ladies and deal with women. And it would be real beef. I'm just like, whoa, you guys are nuts.
Well, it's not real beef, because like, you grew up in the same conditions that I did. If you beef with somebody, hey, I'm gonna see you when I see you. Okay, when I see you, we're gonna put hands on. Like, we're not gonna be talking to a screen, and we're not gonna be like, shit talking each other from a distance. No, I'll see you when I see you. I ain't gotta announce it.
Say on site.
On site, exactly. Like I don't even gotta. Why say names? You could get whoever you know, right? Like, it's like, when I see you, it's going down. And I find that to be, it's not even really, it's a fake masculinity. It's a machismo. There's more machismo than masculinity in this space. Yeah. I found it fascinating, because I came to the same conclusion that you did, that they have like the different gangs and everything. But I said it this way. I said, they say that feminism is the problem, and they said that female promiscuity is the problem. But then when you look at the individual solutions that they provide, the prescriptions, why do they only seem to capitalize on female promiscuity and not push back feminism? If anything, it's a workaround for feminism and capitalizes on female promiscuity. I was like, so it's not a solution, it's part of the problem.
And look, that is a beautiful logic trap. And look, you'll see a person who espouses, you'll see their brain melt down. You bring that up, but that's a great point. That you cannot say the problem is women's promiscuity, and then the solution is
banging
take advantage of it. Now, look, I'll be the first. I'm not going to say I agree with it, but if you're logically consistent and you say, what does Aaron Clary say? If you want to just enjoy the decline, if that's your thing, and you're not really out here trying to make it better, but go for it.
Sure.
Do you? And if that's your message, spread that message. I have no problem with a logically consistent message, whether I agree with it or disagree with it. But the minute you say that you're providing the solutions and answers to said problem, don't tell me that the solution to my house burning is to go get a gallon of gasoline and pour it on it. That's insane, and that's the same thing that we are dealing with.
And see, and that's what I see is the problem for these guys, because a lot of the younger guys that I talk to, they're like, they want to get married, but there's no marriageable women. So their only other option is like, how about we just legalize prostitution? I was like, how does that?
I'm like, how do we jump? You know,
the cognitive dissonance is bad here. You're saying there's no marriageable women because they're all, promiscuous. But then again, you want to capitalize on their promiscuity and make women more promiscuous by legalizing prostitution. Help me make that make sense.
Yeah, it's crazy. And look, and again, marriage rates are down. I think that has more to do with the fun. I wrote a whole essay on this.
I think it's more to do with economics than
right. Well, what I ended up, my hypothesis was that, or is that, marriage itself is really this unusual situation. It's like a middle ground between, or at least it was, not how it is. How it was. It was like a weird middle ground between chattel slavery and indentured slavery, but for both parties, not just for man or women, because for everyone talks about what women had to deal with. If you're in society, if you weren't married, then it was very difficult for you to participate in the economic market, get a job, rent a house, buy a house, all that, right? And then once you did become married, you had to make a lot of decisions. Most financial decisions through your husband. It wasn't until 1974 with the Fair Credit and Employment Act that a woman could actually get a credit card without her husband or father's signature. That's just over 50 years ago.
And that's when we went off the fiat standard. Or the gold standard.
Yeah. But on the other end of it, guys the employers weren't interested in hiring guys that didn't have families with no skin in the game.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? It's so when you open up, both sexes have the ability to live without, a need for working. When both sexes can live and pay their bills without a need for marriage to kind of make it happen. Funny how they don't stay together. And you can see this data in the decreasing marriage rate from the moment these things happen to also another fact that no one likes to report about, at least the other side. I won't say the other side because that's adversarial. That a lot of the red pill guys don't like to report about. Divorces are down, and the rate of divorce. So it doesn't matter by itself how many people get married when we talk about, kind of overall absolute is down, not rate. Okay. But on the other end of this, you look at these people who grew up in that era. Divorce is down when you break it down by age, down in every single age group except 65 and plus.
The boomers.
They're like, whoa, you're telling me I can leave now? It just goes to show it takes a lot more than just I got to work, have a good job, and money to make a relationship work.
Yep.
And now I think what we're seeing two things. One, we're seeing people leave who are like, whoa, I don't need to stay anymore. I'm free. We free, master. And the other side of people who go, it takes a lot to make this work. And some people step up and do that work. I think it's transformative and important work. And others decide not to. But it's not like people aren't finding each other. It's not like they're not getting married. Now, if you're looking, I made this point in one of my videos, one of my essays. If you're taking somebody's advice that says where you should go meet women, and you're going to a club or a bar, and you're going to end up, or in spaces where I won't even, paint a broad brush. I'll just be more specific. I'll say, if you go to a place where you're more likely to run into promiscuous women, whether that be a dating app or, what kind of old, so like the club, okay, then every single woman you meet is going to confirm what you believe about women.
Yeah. You're going to get that confirmation bias.
You're not going to a place where, like, on the other extreme of it, like, it's not like you're going to a church function or something like that, right? and
Well,
meeting
I
him
mean,
like,
even church is not necessarily a good place to meet
yeah,
women.
which is why I kind of put through that in the quotes. But my point is that if you end up in these environments where you're going to find the people who most exemplify the thing that you're trying to avoid, or you say is a bad thing, you deal with it, then every single experience you have is just going to confirm what you believe. That'd be like you, Glenn, going to the hood and the homeboys beating you up every time you go, robbing you, jacking you, taking your car. Every time you go, you get robbed, and all of a sudden
That
you
was
start
like
saying,
how it was growing up. Okay, don't bring me up my childhood memories. Okay, I was just trying to go to Roscoe's. I like the chicken waffles. Okay.
Well, but imagine that happens, and then all of a sudden you start getting on Twitter talking about, man, these effing N words, man. I tell you, all they do is beat people up and rob. But you keep going to the hood. It's not like you're going to Baldwin Hills or something like that, right? Or Ladera Heights. No. You're going down to Compton and Crenshaw and wondering why everything. I used to live in LA, so I think that I got the neighborhoods right.
I used to go. I used to hang out in Manchester, off of Manchester in Compton. So like I told you, like my family is like, my brother and sister are black, so that's where my aunts. Okay, it doesn't get more black than this. My cousin is named Safari. All right, and it doesn't get blacker than Safari.
Spell with a PH?
No, it's an S. But like, it was so funny because like at first I hated that. I hated getting beat up all the time. Always having to like run. And the Mexicans didn't like my mom because they called her a race traitor. And my dad's Italian, so I'm in this weird mix, right? And I'm just like, it got to the point where it's just like, oh, they stopped messing with me. They're like, oh no, he is the token white boy. You better leave him alone, okay? He took enough licks.
You earned your respect. What is that? I think it was either Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock who made that joke. It was like, if you see a gang of black dudes and one white dude with them, that white dude must have did some shit to get their black dude's respect.
I want to welcome Gia because she's listening in. She's hopped on.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm running some errands and cleaning and cooking. The wifely duties. So I'm just gonna be listening.
She's in the kitchen.
Yeah. I never take for granted every day, every meal I tell. I have no idea how I managed to find my wife. I don't know what I did in another life.
Yeah, this podcasting takes you away from so much. So that's why I was like trying to get you yesterday, because that was like my designated day to film. So I was like trying to, I was in front of the camera that day, but I don't want to miss you. So I was like, okay, I'll jump in and listen.
Well, I appreciate it. And I appreciate the invite. It's all love. Gonna have a great combo.
Yeah.
What do you think is the solutions? Like, because I think like, because me and Gia always talk about solutions. We like to give actionable solutions that guys could take.
How would I? Okay, there's going to be two kind of solutions. There's going to be if I could wave a magic wand tomorrow and violate the laws of physics, and then there's going to be the more practical one. And I'll give you the crazier one first because that'll make the more practical one make a lot more sense. If I could wave that wand and violate all laws of physics, I would make 2-parent households the standard and have period. I don't care what the condition is. I'd put some kind of law in place and or put some kind of restriction where you cannot raise your kid. You can't have kids unless you guys are both going to be together for at least 18 years. Actually, look, 18 years is a long time. You, at least 12. At least let them get the puberty. All right. That would solve a lot of downstream issues. Because the biggest issue that I see, especially when I look at the audience of a lot of these guys, is that they're like preteen teenage boys.
Yeah.
Who don't have any guidance, who don't have anyone to show them the ropes of things, of life, and so they have to figure it out. And so they get this kind of this distorted, hyperbolic version of masculinity. Like we were saying, there's a lot of performance rather than what actually works. And with that hyperbolic performative masculinity, that's where a lot of that negative shit falls in. Okay. So if you could deal with that, then you would solve a lot. You'd also inadvertently get rid of a lot of the third wave feminism. And you missed Gia, but I made sure I was very clear in my description of the feminism that's good. The first wave that got us things like the 1971 Fair Credit and Employment Act and the 19th Amendment, things of that nature. And then this third wave that is very much an antagonistic force, I think, designed, if I remember correctly, I got to look up the story, but it's designed to sell a bunch of magazines and stuff to women.
I would argue that there was no good phase at all. Like, it's all been destructive. It all started from like a hate movement, from like hurt people trying to hurt others. I think that you're right. You're correct. Like, we have over 50% of families today in broken homes, and men don't have a place to go to. Like, they don't have any, there's just nothing out there for them. There's nobody voicing any type of like fear or feelings that they're feeling is like pushed down. And then even the medical, like even our healthcare tells men, like they push the depression. Like they're being misdiagnosed for what they have. Okay. So like, we know in psychology, right? Like, depression manifests in men very differently than women. For men, they get almost like it's like a very surreal quiet where nothing matters anymore. And because of that, they get misdiagnosed, because people just think, well, they're just being stoic. They're just being masculine. That's how men are. They shut up. They don't talk about it, right? That's normal. No, it's not normal. It's not normal. So there's a lot of that going on. And then they gravitate to online because they don't have anywhere to go. And they don't have anyone to guide them. They don't have a father figure. So you're right. They're falling into these places that are feeding that anger and that violence and that angry feeling that they don't have anywhere to vent it. You know, it's all a lot of cope.
And to add to that, I was talking about that book by Tony McAleary, The Cure for Hate. I listened to him on a call, and he told this story about this woman who was worried about her 12-year-old son, who's autistic, and a lot of his classmates make fun of him and no one understands him. And what really broke him is that he tried to have a birthday party and no one showed up. Yeah. Okay, so there's the background. So she found out he had been spending a lot of time on Stormtrooper, the heavily white supremacist website, and she found like the conversations and chat logs. And what the mom said to Tony is that, you know, these guys are giving my son the attention and respect that he's not getting anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And so you end up in this space. And so that's why I say, like, if I could, you know, do that, that's what I would do.
Listen. The way that you correlated it. The way you correlated it with the way you correlated it in your article that you're coming out with gangs, it's so accurate. It really is.
You're correct on that. So what's happening is people want to talk about, like, you hear everyone going, oh, everyone's talking about feelings or nothing about facts, right? You hear that all over online. But what they don't realize is that the way to get to facts, the way to actually get to is through feelings, right?
I always say.
Yeah. So you cannot, like, if people continually try to ignore someone's feelings, that's going to do the opposite effect of what they actually want. So what's happening is these young boys are going to gangs, traffickers, like criminals, and these guys are telling them in their language, in their speech tones, and so they feel like, wow, these guys understand me. And then they gravitate to these places, and then they get attached. And there you go.
It is. I always say, you know, people talk about, you know, facts don't care about feelings, but the reality that's way more true is the inverse. Feelings don't care about facts.
Yeah.
And you have to
I think if anything, that's where really what it is. Your feelings don't care about facts. Because I mean, people would, how many times have you done something stupid? You know it was stupid, and you're like, I'm doing it anyways. I'm feeling it. I'm feelings over facts.
You end up in a bad spot. But what I think, but a real solution though that we can implement is what turned me into, I guess, what the iteration of me that I am now, and what led to this conversation is eye occupied. I think we need people like me and even at all levels. I think I occupy an interesting space in the consciousness of how a person perceives a male online. And that I'm not so old to be out of touch, or at least not completely out of touch. I have
we're not old, okay? We are not old.
Look, man, I at my boxing gym, I have no effing clue what anybody under 25 is talking about. Like, I wish I knew, but it's like another language.
Are you a millennial? What are millennial?
I'm 40. Yeah, I was born in 85.
Yeah, so you're the breaker of chains. That's what you are.
Okay, that's a great. Yes, this great middle ground. Is to use my platform and my apparent, life, and not apparent, my actual life and how it looks, and really stand up to things, because it takes a lot of courage to stand up to things. Look, like we were talking about with Rollo earlier. Look, I have met him, and I will never insult somebody just off rip, especially if I know them, but I won't let you say stupid shit either. Like, and so, which is how this conversation got sparked off, Gio, what you messaged, is there was a thread where I'm going back and forth with him, and I'm like,
Gio sent it to me, and I was like, look at Ed. I was like, because I've read your stuff. I've never met you, and like I said, we know people we know very many people in the same, space that know each other. And they're like, and I would follow your stuff. I'm like, man, I like this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, the Clash of the Titans. Here we go. We see you and Rollo going back and forth.
Yeah, but and it's gotta look. If I don't do it, then kind of, quote unquote, who will? When I say I mean the general kind of people who have any type of and I hate to use the term because that motherfucker took it and made a book out of it. Positive masculinity. But yeah, and then at the kind of ground level, since we can't make these families form, we can do the next best thing. That's one of the reasons why as little money as it pays and goodness is the labor of love. I enjoy being at the boxing gym and working with guys who are trying to get better at fighting when I have the time. Right now, my kid is absolutely devouring my time. But one day it won't be, and he's a boy, so I get to set that. Maybe I don't want him to fight, but if he decides he wants to, that's where it's going to be. So those are the solutions, and they won't be fast, they won't be flashy, and they will not produce immediate results, but that's okay. I was just having this conversation yesterday, and I compared this idea of consistent action over time, i.e. discipline, I compared it to raising a kid, and that you won't really know if you're doing anything right until it's too late to do something about it anyway. And that's the kind of change, because look how long it took for us to get here. 20 years doesn't seem that long. So I remember being an asshole in my 20s. Like, I remember being 20 years old. Very clearly. It's not like the way you kind of remember being like 5 when you're 15 or 25. Like, no, very clear memories can tell you exactly what I was doing, where I was living, all that, right? Yeah. That's how long, but we watch the culture change. And so we want to take it back, turn it back. People with voices, people with platforms, they have to use it not just at the large macro level, but at the small grassroots level, interactions with one another and young men. And really promote the freaking values. I mean,
that's a good point. It's a good point because, like, you know what it's like to build yourself up physically, right? But I think what gets lost online is, like, if you're going to point out how we all need to get to the gym and build ourselves up physically, then we also have to be preaching why we need to build ourselves up mentally. So I think that gets lost in that space, right? They're always talking about, money and muscles and gain, but yet, where is the mental, where are we helping our minds?
And the ethics as well. I don't remember how, I know kind of things that have always bugged me in general. Like, for whatever reason, I've always had this weakness and almost got me kicked out the army. I cannot stand anything that looks like an abuse of power and anything that looks like bullying. And you were in the army, so you dealt with officers. So you already know.
I had a lieutenant that I almost dropped.
and you just got to bite your tongue. In fact,
my husband was in the Army, and same exact thing. He can't stand bullies. It's one of his pet peeves.
And so you take that awareness of others, and it gets ported over into, I think, a broader ethical framework you start to build your life around. And one of the things we were talking about, how your ethics have to be informed by your logical processes and your thoughts. I ended up going, this is just not good, and it's not good, and it's and whether it is intentional or not isn't even relevant, because I think some of the things we talked about earlier with the misquoting of stats and stripping things down to its basic version, I actually don't think that is intentionally deceptive. I think it is just cognitively lazy, and that ends up looking very similar. It's a lot easier and a lot more attractive. There was another example I was going to give when we were talking, and I just remembered it. And it's about the stat that, or I don't even remember if there's a stat, but they always talk about how the family courts are always ruling in favor of the women. And for again, it didn't pass the smell test, because I know a bunch of single moms, and I don't know a single dad, or rather, I don't know any single mom that was like, oh yeah, I don't want him around, I don't want his help. So I dug into this, and it turns out that, like, most cases don't go to trial. They just end up,
they get settled in mediation.
Yeah. And then the ones that do go to trial, when the dad fights back, he's awarded custody between 65 and 70% of the time. Yeah. And fortunately, I got through to one guy who was like, oh, he mentioned, he was like, Ed showed me, like, that is a false stat. It's one thing at a time, one little thing. But when they strip these things down, I don't think it's intentional. I think what a lot of it is that illusory truth bias, that familiarity bias, where you hear something enough times that you go, it must be true. And then because we're cognitively lazy, or as I learned in physics, we like to find the most energy efficient configuration. We don't look up, we don't verify, we don't check, because it sounds good, it confirms our biases, it aligns with our viewpoint. And so it's got to be true. Why wouldn't it be if it's on the internet, right?
Yeah. What I find really problematic right now is this new talking point about morality, right? And I wrote an article about it. And actually, I'll play a little video of. Actually, let me just play the video first, because this is something I stitched together from 3 different clips that I watched, and I was like, this common theme here is very detrimental for men. And this will be very problematic. Here, I'll put it up.
Bonnie Blue. I thought
you saw that?
Yeah, it was interesting.
I just think she's disgusting, bro. I just think she's absolutely repulsive.
You've got 500,000 people on your Telegram, right?
Yeah.
And you're advertising OnlyFans girls on there.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a contradiction there?
No, because I openly say I don't give a fuck, and I'm doing it for money.
Right there, there's that first comment right there. I'm doing it for money. So I don't care what I'm doing. If it negatively affects somebody, I'm doing it for money. All right. So remember that. So that's no morality there. And then,
okay, but I want to just point out before you play the next clip, that the reason why we attach this to the next clip is because they are saying that these guys who they put in this documentary are not really relevant, and that they are more puppeteers than anything, and they should not be taken seriously.
That they're not red pill.
Correct. So we then
one true Scotsman.
Yeah.
No true Scotsman. Yeah,
so
that's what it is.
If we're gonna say these guys are not relevant, or they're puppeteers, or they're just like copycats, okay, where are they copying this from?
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Yep. All right, so here's the next clip.
Yeah, and that's I wanted to bring that up for like the best thing to do, guys, is just move silently, shut up. Like, if you don't make content, you just, hey, women are the ones talking. They're gonna talk themselves to death about what is right, and neither of them are gonna have your best interest at heart. Play the game, and really, we want to win. We don't care about being right.
We want to win. We don't care about being right. So it's not about what's right. It's about winning by any means necessary, right? So again, no morality.
That sounds like I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
OnlyFans girls, all whores, and shaking, thumping the Bible and everything. Like he was basically doing the same thing Andrew Wilson does every time he's on whatever podcast. It's just like he's just holding bitches accountable, appeals more to the emotional state of guys who are moralistic, because that they're speaking the same language. Really, they're making emotional appeals. The only people who get to talk about this are women, and once again, traditional conservative women. So you're going to tell me that the red pill is the flip side of feminism? Fuck you. Traditional conservatism is the flip side of feminism.
Right there.
It's really funny. I'm just laughing. Someone made a comment. It's amazing. Someone made a comment on one of my videos about the red pill. It was a woman who said, "Good points, but I don't think feminism is the opposite of the red pill." And it was just interesting to hear the other side of that now. Wow.
So do you think that is a huge problem, like this abandonment of morality being preached in this space?
Yes, but probably not for the reason, or maybe, I don't know. I think it is a problem because, the way I approach this thing, I would use this movie to describe it. You ever see the movie Arrival?
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies. The thing I took away from that movie is that the aliens were coming to give us a gift, and we almost fucked it up being us, being human.
Being human, yep.
Okay, and that's how I look at all of these platforms and all these tools. They're gifts, and we can either use them to destroy ourselves or we can use it to elevate. So how I look at this thing from a moralistic standpoint is that I have a responsibility to use my platform to not spread disinformation. And part of that is making sure that anything I say or endorse is actually true to the best of my ability. If I'm wrong, you go, hey, that is not factually correct. I'll never argue with someone's opinion. I cannot change how you feel, but you have to admit that's how you feel. And they'll never do that. But when you start saying a thing is a fact, or you start speaking and following a logical train, that is where, and I think this is as I speak this out, it's coming together a lot more. That is where the morals for me stem from, is that you have to be correct in what you deliver to people, because if you do anything else but that, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, that is dishonesty.
You're talking about having integrity for what you say and being accountable for what you're saying. Rather than
I caught a lot of flack during COVID because I wouldn't say whether I was vaccinated or not. And I'm like, I'm not doing that because I don't want somebody to make their decision based on whether I did it or not. Because if I'm wrong, the blood's on my hands. So how about this? How about you use your own damn brain and figure out what you're going to do and stop worrying about my medical history? That's how I look at this whole thing. So when I see people spread something, even if it's 95% true. I just had an argument on Facebook. Well, not argument, but a correction because he admitted he was wrong on Facebook. Just to show you how deep this runs with me. He said his post was exercise outperforms SSRIs or antidepressants in treating depression by like 5 to 7 times. And I said, hold the fuck up. Like, I know these stats. I said, yo, we cannot. You're directionally right, but you've gone too far. It is 1 to 2 times, because if you say this like that, somebody might, you don't know who's watching. They might go, holy shit, maybe I can stop taking my pills. All right. And maybe they couldn't, because you told them 5 to 7 when like I've never seen that stat put that way. So I looked it up and I showed him. I was like, look, man, you can't do that. That's dangerous. And this is just as dangerous.
Yeah, I tell guys opinion. Like before they even get on like any type of antidepressants, I say, hey, go get your testosterone check first, because I know what they do. They, like, for guys, they can have low T and it could show symptoms of depression, but they'll just prescribe you SSRIs or without even checking your testosterone. So I say, hey, before you even get on the SSRIs or antidepressants, get your testosterone levels checked first. See if they're low. If they are low, get on TRT and see if that doesn't change anything first. Because I am very hesitant telling people to, if they're already on antidepressants, I'm not telling them to get off of it because the chemical imbalance. But before, there should be steps before you hop on that. That should be a last resort, because I don't like anything that mind alters you. You know, that alters your mind. I think that's dangerous, because all that does is it's a passivity. It makes you passive. It doesn't really solve your problems. It makes you passive to your problems. But I would never tell them not to get on it. But I would say, hey, do these steps first before you do that. Check off all the boxes. Make sure you going down the list, make sure everything's checked off before you do that. But I do know the stat you're talking about when people are like, oh yeah, just exercise. Exercise will cure your depression.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Like, I mean, it may help. It could significantly help, but it may not cure the depression.
But it's not a cure. Yeah. And that's so, see, in that same vein, I think that's where, to answer the question, yeah, I mean, that bugs me. But again, I'm a very big adherent to the idea that, you know, never attribute to malice what you can to stupidity.
Yeah.
And a lot of stupidity is really just laziness, like active laziness, if such an oxymoron could exist. And that's what I see more than anything. And
you know what also concerns me too is that I would say like 5 years ago or so, a lot of the things that they're saying now in the right side was once only a left narrative.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that great?
Wow.
And now it's become on the right. So like when they say things like it's a woman's job for the relationship, let her approach you, all that started in the left.
Yeah. Very, very. Yeah, you're right. We're old enough to, I always like to tell people, you know, I'm old enough to remember when woke meant the exact opposite of what it means now.
Yeah.
No, that's a really interesting observation. But you're right. But that just goes to show you, right? What is horseshoe theory? You know, opposites become indistinguishable at their extremes, and then at that point, you don't know which. If I didn't know what your ideology stood for, you could say something. I can go, well, I don't know. What are you for this? Are you against this? It's hard to know because it's all the same talking point. Because at the end, I think it's the same goal, which is back to the most basic thing. If you follow the money,
it's all about money.
You ever see The Wire? Yeah, Detective Lester, he goes, you know, you follow drugs and drug dealers, or you follow drugs and you end up with drug dealers. But if you follow the money, you don't know where the fuck you'll end up. And that's exactly what this. But we know where we end up here in this case. Is that if you follow their actions, everything comes back to the money, and that is just no good. You look at like I looked up in my article, I looked up the ad revenue. I got a good estimate of the ad revenue that the Fresh and Fit podcast and the whatever podcasts are making. They're killing the whatever, because Fresh and Fit got demonetized because, you know, the first mover disadvantage, I guess. They figured out, you can't go that hard. But the whatever podcast, they're playing the lines.
Is making millions.
He's doing at least $100,000 a month in ad revenue.
Yep.
And you can't tell me that if you're a millionaire in ad revenue from a certain kind of content, you won't keep making more of that content, and you won't be incentivized to do what you need to do to get that kind of content. And when you look at the whatever podcast, what is that? That is pulling up the worst examples and showing how under these worst conditions, everything we say about men and women are true. And this is how you gotta interact and move.
You know, it's funny. I think you may know him, Michael Foster.
Sounds so familiar,
Foster, right?
I probably do.
I think he was at 21 convention back in the day. He was a pastor. He wrote this book called "It's Good to Be a Man," and I'm going to steal this quote from him because him and I had many conversations. I was like, "What are we supposed to do about the red pill?" You know, and he's like, "Glenn, let me tell you something." He goes, "The red pill tells you what is the problem, and the Bible tells you what to do about the problem." And I love that he put that together. And in his book, he talks about there's a bunch of Absaloms today. Absalom was one of King David's son who would stand outside of the city gates, and as people were coming to go see the king to weigh on their dispute, he's like, I hope the king shows you favor. And then to the people that that walk out sad that the king didn't rule in their favor, he goes, if I was your king, I know your problems, I know your situation, I would have ruled in your favor. So Absalom is this guy who would appeal to the lost, to the brokenness of men, to the people that are hurt, that they feel that there was injustice, right? And they would gain their attention. He almost overthrew King David, and he ended up losing. But so we have Absaloms in this space that are capitalizing on male pain. Rollo Tomasi, Absalom, he's capitalizing on male's pain, because he's refusing to provide a solution for the same reason that you mentioned earlier. Because if I provide you a solution, if I cured your problem, I lose a revenue stream. So what they have done was they have made the red pill a destination. It was supposed to be a gas station. You go in, you fill up, and you get back out on your journey. What they're doing now is they're keeping men from pursuing their journey because they're making it a destination, and they're keeping them there and saying like, I'm breadcrumbing you. And you know what? If you just listen to my podcast, or if you just read my books, or if you join my community, you will get on. And it's like, they're stunting men's growth, and they're keeping them from their purpose. I say what we need to do is we need the solution, because that was the main question. The solution is we need to build Nehemiahs. Nehemiah, he heard the walls of Jericho fell down, and he said, you know what? I need to go do something about it. He got men, and he went and rebuilt the walls. He had a trellis in one arm, which was like a building brick, to lay bricks down, and he had a sword in the other. And he's like, no, I'm causing men to rise up and stand firm. And that's the solution. We need more Nehemiahs, guys like yourself, guys like RP Thor, to stand up and say, hey, this is the problem. We understand the problem that you're dealing with. Let me point you into a better direction. Take the information, the good information that you got there, but let's get back on your journey. Let's not stay here. Don't camp here, because this is not your home. Your home is your destination, your purpose, your journey. And I think that's what we need. I think we need more people to do what you're doing and willing to call out like the BS when we see it. And that takes courage. And that takes, that fighter's ambition, that relentless drive. And I don't think there's enough of that. I don't think there's enough men encouraging that. And I think that's what we need. I think that what men need is actually good men of good standard to actually mirror after. And
that made me think about something else, because one of the things that really I would say accelerated, it was already, especially after seeing how everything with the 21 convention and those individuals, or rather in particular Anthony Johnson, and how he conducted himself, and then how Donovan Sharp was in the mix, and then watching, and then after that watching Abba and Preach deal with a lot of stuff, because that stuff started coming through, because they're not in that space. They were just being
they
exposed.
were just basically reporting on it.
But seeing all that was already pushing me completely away. I wanted nothing to do with that, because my career and my life has nothing to do with that. But then the big thing, the accelerant that turned me from this drifter to kind of an attacker when I see it. Like I said, I'm not looking for a fight yet, but
the keyword is yet.
Because ultimately what's going to happen is one of two things at the rate that I'm going. Either I'm going to draw ire, like real ire, somebody already popped Rollo in and he decided to go back and forth with me, or I'm going to have to go on the offensive, because I'm going to be bored one night. It's not like I'm going to be sitting there bored and I'm just going to fire from the hip, and that's going to burn every bridge. But no, the thing that really did it was having my son.
Yeah.
And this is kind of in that realm of I could wave a magic wand.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have anything, when you don't have any tie to the future, you're not vested in how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
I got seriously invested in what will happen, because I always imagine, I go, what's going to happen if I die before he figures this thing out? Well, I have to do my best to first I got to make sure I'm assuming I'm alive. That's how that kind of start. You start via negativa and then work your way up. Well, okay. But I got to make sure that he does not feel like he needs something like that.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Look, you talk, I'm coming up now. It'll be 13, 16, 12, 26, be 13 years sober this December. And let me tell you something. What draws people into addiction? I used to, I've oscillated. It goes, oh, addiction is a disease. It's not a disease. I don't know. Here's one thing I do know 100% sure. Addiction is a trauma disease.
Yeah.
I had a buddy one time tell me, he said, yeah, man, I smoked crack like 3 times and it wasn't for me. I didn't really like it. And I'm like, the fuck you mean? You smoked it 3 times? Hey, look, where I'm from, if you smoke it once, you basically sold your soul to the altar.
Yep.
I can never understand why my friends could drink and they were cool, but me, I can't, it's nothing or all for the next few days. Because they grew up in stable households. I didn't. I'm dealing with this whole thing we talked about earlier. You're looking for something to calm your nervous system down, to make you feel belonged. All these things that the drugs and alcohol do. It's the same with this. If you're looking for something that makes it make sense, give you back some power, provides an enemy, like some camaraderie, like a brother, like all of these things the guys are missing. So if more people had children,
yeah,
and we're invested in the future of those kids, and they were in the house to raise them, we can't have a bunch of fucking bastards running around in the definition of the word. I think that would do a lot too. But the next best thing we can do, since we can't control others and we can't manipulate space and matter with magic, is that we train up. We just keep training up and connecting with guys who are aligned with this kind of idea, and show them how to get involved. There are so many like once I started looking for it, you got to look for it, because if you're not looking for it, you won't find it. But once you start looking for it, it's amazing what you'll find. So many ways to be involved with I guess young men, whether that whatever ones you work with the best involved with, whether that's teenagers, your skill is good for teens, skill is good for young kids. So many ways to have good, strong guys to keep them from being interested in a lot of the craziness, but also to root out some of the weirdos. That's the other thing that happens is that they capitalize and move in on these spaces. You ever see that interview with that Chomo where he's talking about how he selected his victim? He goes, I look for ones that have weak fathers.
Yeah.
So all of this I mean, I hate when I work the problem out and it comes back to something I can't do anything about.
Well, I mean, it does show that you can't work the problem out individually, but you could create the movement or the environment to facilitate that change. Like I tell guys all the time, like, I don't care what women are doing. Like, as you said, you have a son. All my kids are adults. Like I started off young. Papa was I'm
about to say, man, yeah, because my buddy, I got a buddy who's 40. His daughter just graduated high school, so you must have.
I have a daughter that's 21, and my son is 18. So they're both out of the home. My daughter's already married, and my son is in college. And so, like, for me, I still feel the responsibility.
Oh, wow, your daughter's married at 21, man. That is counter. That's awesome.
Yeah, she married a guy that's in the Air Force Academy. So, she chose right. She chose right. She did a good job. And I said I still feel this responsibility. Like I mentioned earlier, we have a responsibility to leave an inheritance for our children's children, and it doesn't necessarily mean material wealth. But we didn't create this problem that we have, but it's still our responsibility to do something about it, right? It's not, and that's where a lot of people get hung up on. It's like, it's not my fault. It doesn't matter about whose fault it is. It's on your watch now. So what are you going to do about it? And that's where I still am very concerned. You're looking at it from the future sense. How is this going to affect my kids? How's this going to, I want my son to make sure that he has all the things that he has, so he doesn't go searching for something that I should have given him.
Yeah.
And I think that we can
out,
do
basically, which is what that is, man. Because I just see it's absolutely it's insidious to me, because once you realize it's for money.
Yeah.
It's not for belief. It's not for the love of the game, so to speak. It's for money. It's all the lowest form.
And then how is that any different than these girls who are doing the other stuff too?
Right.
Like, it's no different. It's no different.
Like you got the OnlyFans. I got the podcast.
It's actually the male version of OnlyFans. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
They don't want you to simp for women. They don't want you to simp for women, but they want you to simp for them. Send them money. That's
yeah.
It's crazy. But Ed, I don't want to take up much more of your time. I know you're a busy man. But I have one question for you, okay?
All right.
Southpaw, all right. Who was the hardest Southpaw fighter you faced?
You know what, man? I'm trying to remember. Have I fought a Southpaw as a pro? Oh man.
I'm gonna call what's his name? Aiden Ross. We'll set it up. I'm Southpaw. No, I'm kidding.
but I can tell you who is an amateur that I remember both the Southpaw guys I fought, because I lost on both. Cam Awesome and Donovan Dennis. And Cam Awesome and one of them guys, Cam's a great friend now. Like a really, probably one of the, in terms of like, I never use the term best friend, but in terms of people I met in boxing, I really vibe with, and we're different, which is good, because that's not we're similar, but we're more different, I think, than similar. Fucking vegan, man.
Oh God.
he has the record. He's won the most championships as an amateur in the United States program. Didn't make it to the Olympics. The 1 year he did make it, he finally made it after getting cut twice. Cut once and then not qualifying again. He makes it in 2020. And what happens in 2020?
COVID.
Yep. It's goofy. But Cam is good. I don't know. I mean, I never talked to Donovan other than after he kicked my ass. But he
I was a fan
fighter.
of Winky Wright. I used to watch Winky Wright.
He's a great fighter. That high guard is beautiful, man.
Yep.
Yep.
He's one of my favorite Southpaw fighters.
It was Winky Southpaw. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
But yeah, man, that Southpaw shit it's you know what advantage they have? There are so few of them, and most of us are us. And there's nothing because when you break it down and you learn how to fight a Southpaw, it's not the positioning changes, and your what attack is open changes.
Yep.
That's really the easy part. The hard part, the thing that you spend your entire career putting automatically gets upended, is learn how to defend.
Yeah.
The only time I've had to stop sparring because I got hit too hard, that wasn't an actual injury, like when I broke my eye socket. That was in sparring against Charles Martin, by the way, out there in LA.
Really?
Yeah, Charlie fucking cracked my eye socket, man. I got hit by a Southpaw. I went to block just automatically where I should be safe, and I thought the punch was coming from the right. No, it was coming from the hook was coming from my left. And it was a clean shot.
Ooh.
And I'm just like, I said, all right, because now at this point, the way I spar, if I take a tough shot, a week without sparring minimum, there's no reason. I'm 41. I think I'm going to be able to do some interesting things. But if I don't, that ain't the end of my life. At this point, if I got the news tomorrow and said, Ed, you can never box again, I'd be like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. But I just fought again. I just fought in July, man, and I'm looking to get back on hopefully 2 or 3 times this year, but we shall see.
What if we got like Aiden Ross, because he has that fighting that fight company now, where he does like celebrity fighters.
Is that Misfits?
Yes, it's Misfits.
Okay, yeah, so, yeah, Look, Aiden Ross. If Misfits Boxing had me on, man, I saw the fight between
Jason Love and
Is that Tate?
Adam 22? Or
I did not see that one. I the guy that Andrew Tate fight because he was with him, right?
yeah.
I said these guys are terrible. I said because look, I didn't have anything to gauge it against.
Yeah.
But here's a guy that just goes to show you, man, you can find a way to bullshit a lot of stuff. That's a hard one to bullshit. I'll give him that. But yeah. I watched him move and Tate, and I'll say this.
He was sloppy.
Yeah, like there's some things that if for just from years of doing this, you should never do. Because they're just muscle memory. You can't get to a certain level if you do it. Like here's just a good example. You can't move to the next. You can't even become a top amateur. I wouldn't even say a kind of good amateur if you bite on feints. Like it's just not going to happen. You'll get eaten up in every fight. That's not to say you won't bite on a feint occasionally, but it's going to take so much effort to set it up.
Yeah.
I looked at the way he was moving, and I said, nah, son. Like I know your record, I know what you said, but I don't know what the level of competition you fought was because I'm looking at what's happening and I'm like, nah. Like that's it. There's no way it was top like level. Yeah, I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying it wasn't guys that couldn't fight. Obviously they could and they were fighting. But there's some shit you just can't. That'd be like, I'm trying to think. It wasn't as bad as like coming out and having your hands down.
Overcorrected. He went really over. Like he overextended his punches a lot too. Like he was like forcing them.
Well, forget that. Like that is because punch technique is a much debated thing. Here are some things that aren't debated. I watched him look away from punches in the slow mo. I was like, nah, because your nervous system, it's kind of like the feint thing. You can't do this if you are afraid to get hit. And even if you think, I'll take this hit, you got to train your nervous system to not react to it. That means you should, like that's how my eye socket got broken. Like, because I'm looking. I'm not like, it's not look away. You can't look, you can't fight what you can't see. And the minute you look away, any good fighter is gonna go, I got you now. Like,
yeah.
What
did you think about the Tyson and Paul fight? I thought that one was rigged from the beginning because
I didn't think it was rigged. I thought a lot of people don't see people don't give Jake Paul enough credit, in my opinion. They think the fights are rigged. I don't think a single one of his fights has been rigged. One, if they were rigged, somebody's going to jail because those are events you can bet on. And that is, I can't remember what the word is for boxing, but that's the equivalent of point shaving. You can't do that. Right. But people don't think about that. There's that smell test again, that thing I talk about.
I knew they had like a no knockout clause in the contract.
Ain't no knockout clause because if you can bet on it, because if you can offer, unless they had a thing set up with the I don't think you could.
It was an exhibition. It wasn't even a legitimate.
Okay, now you call it an exhibition.
Yeah,
that's different. But the rules got to reflect that, and I don't know if they did. But as far as Jake Paul and Tyson, that being rigged and his other fights being rigged, no, I think people forget two things. One, fighting is a hard business. If you took me right now, I'm in shape, but let's say I never fought. And you said, here's all the money and time in the world. You got no kids, you got no girl. Just go train 8 hours a day. You're pretty damn good. And how long have you been doing this? 4 or 5 years at this point?
Yeah.
You're pretty good. That's how long a good amateur career is. That's how long mine was, at least about 5 years. And you end up learning and picking up a lot. The other thing, as far as Tyson, I thought, Tyson fooled us all with those videos. When I seen him walk out, I said, this motherfucker's going to lose. If anything, I think Jake Paul was holding back. Like, I don't think it was Tyson.
What do you think about Tyson's biting the glove? Like, he kept on, like, biting his glove. Like, I thought, like,
I don't think he was. Look at his own fights. He does the same thing. I don't think he's biting it. I think he's adjusting it and trying to pull the thing closer. He does. You can see him do the same thing in some of his fights. I think Bruce Selton does that. Off the top of my head, I know that for sure. But this is what I mean. Like covering something.
No. But I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you because, like, from an outsider's perspective, because I've never I trained like mixed martial arts for like when I was in the military for hand-to-hand combat. That's different than, you know, boxing. Boxing is a technique, more of a sport that's disciplined in a different field. And so I'm looking at Tyson, and he keeps on like doing this with his hand, and I'm like, I thought he had a perfect opportunity to throw a hook, and he just didn't take it because he was biting.
He probably did, but like there's so much going on in a fight. You gotta recognize. You can't even recognize. It's kind of like swinging. Be like trying to swing at a bat or swing at a pitch. I just oddly enough wrote an article about this. That's why it's fresh in my head. Your reaction time to a movement to throw punches between 170 and 220 milliseconds. It's not a fastball, but it's fast. Yeah. Time it takes for a punch to get from rest to a punch and back, little less. It's like 100, 80 to 100. So you don't have enough time to think. You have to react.
Yeah, you're just reacting. Yeah.
If Tyson hasn't been in a ring, like, well, he did that Roy Jones fight, but I'm sure he wasn't like really training to fight. I was the sparring partner for Roy Jones for that fight, by the way.
Really?
When he fought Tyson, yeah. I need to put that picture up on my wall somewhere so people can see it. But if they let me back on Facebook, I can download it. But yeah, there's just a lot going on. I just think, especially at 58, man, like he didn't look like he lived in the gym. Because
no, he didn't look like,
if he came up 58 spry, I would be like, okay. But when I seen him walk, I said, nah, Tyson fooled us. I made a tweet about it. I said, no. I think Paul was the one holding back because he didn't want to make, because imagine that. Like
yeah, you're making a legend look bad.
Well, think of it this way. It's like we can make an agreement that there's an elephant in the room, and I'll pretend to see that elephant and play along as long as you don't ask me to make any plans to actually interact with the world that assumes the elephant is actually there. That's kind of like what that was. We'll play along with this Tyson fight the whole time. We'll go along with it, but don't make us think for 1 second, that you're going to do something to shatter our reality, and if he went and killed Tyson like he could have easily, I think for sure, then he loses in all aspects. He loses the respect. I mean, it would have been bad.
Yeah.
And you saw what Anthony Joshua did to him, though. You just look at that fight.
I thought that was his best fight. I thought that was Paul's best fight. Like he. You know, him fighting Tyson. Tyson's older. You know, you would have to think his reaction time. He's like, as you mentioned, him not being in the ring. It was an easy win, right? But that Joshua fight, that guy came in there.
Well, because he had to. You got to remember, man. Jake Paul's only fought effectively cruiserweights. Anthony Joshua is a real deal heavyweight, like 6'6", 240, 245, and not just any heavyweight. The gold medalist who was this close to being a unified champ. Again, you know, had 3 and 4 belts. So he wasn't like in there with a slouch. And so he got his jaw broke. Like that's what happened. So but on that note, I'm gonna go and bother my kid. I appreciate you guys for having me on.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll have to do another one.
Normal one.
Yeah, when Gia's on camera, not in the kitchen.
Yeah.
No, we appreciate you. I was saying I didn't get a chance to finish. My wife cooks if she does not cooking, we're having one of 3 things for dinner: tacos, hamburgers, or takeout. Like, well, she cooks because she's Portuguese and really loves cooking. So there's just this awesome Southern European cuisine that is always being served in his house, and we are happy. But kids are assholes, man. Like he still won't eat. Like, I'm like, one day you're gonna really appreciate this. Like, he still won't eat her stuff. Like, he will sometimes. We got him on chicken.
How old is he? How old?
3.5.
Oh, that's
he's
normal.
in his terror age.
Yeah, that's normal. Around just don't give up. Yeah, don't give up. Like around 7, they come around.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna be like, man, now you're ruining. Now I gotta feed you and stuff. I already gotta buy more food.
Negotiate with terrorists, okay? Remember that. Just don't negotiate with the terrorists.
When my son was young, that's all I cooked every meal for years, and now finally that he's grown and gone, we actually can go out to a restaurant here and there. But it's like of lately we go to restaurants and we're like, nah, home food is way better. So we just go back to home, you know?
Right, so, and then but flipping right now, yeah, you're right. Like he'll eat. He goes, let's go get pancakes. I'm like, we can make those here. But
well, all right, Ed. Well, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to Aiden. I'm gonna set up the fight on Misfits. Like, just pick somebody in the manosphere. We'll get you and somebody in the manosphere, and then we'll set it up. Okay?
Oh man.